I'm feeling very thankful. Thanks for those wonderful introductions, Satya. And I'm feeling very happy to chat with Vidya today. There is no fire here around. In fact, it is all wet around right here in Bangalore, and I'm sure most of South India as well. So, wish it was a real fireside chat. And I feel very privileged to be having this chat with Vidya. And I'm sure every member in the audience would love to have this chat. And I feel honored to be a person representing the audience having this chat with Vidya. So that's nice. So Vidya, I would maybe we can start with you talking about the kind of challenges you faced. The TED talk that I saw that itself is so inspiring, and I'm sure the people in the audience would also appreciate it. But for this conversation, maybe it would help if you could highlight some of the challenges you faced, especially in the context of learning. And there again, especially in the context of learning maths or science, programming, because you have been a trendsetter or a trailblazer in that area.
Yes, hope I'm audible and my video is clearly visible.
Yes, Vidya, it is.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. And I've been listening to the previous sessions, and every session was really interesting. And thank you also for the kind introduction. So coming to my experiences, so I am a person with visual impairment, and I'm completely blind since birth. And I'll be talking from an Indian perspective. Um, and because I grew up in India, I was born and brought up in India. And I have been on both sides, where in my childhood where there was no accommodation at all. And also I have seen how things changed when there were necessary accommodations. So this has helped me to understand the ground realities better because I've been there. Now, I'll just briefly mention my experiences, and as you had asked, I will also mention experiences with regard to studying STEM. So, I was born in a village, and in villages, there's a lot of stigma about people with disabilities. People are not educated. Even now in my village, people do ask me, "Who am I?" That's the favorite question that everybody asks. So, it still continues. And there are not enough resources for a child with visual impairment in a village. And there's no awareness on what to do with a person with visual impairment, because that's the first time ever someone is visually impaired in that village. Now, naturally, the first 4 years for me went in trying to restore my eyesight. And one of the doctors who operated my left eye informed my parents that you have anyway named her Vidya, so just go ahead and give her very good education. So all this indirectly plays a part in learning. So
Right.
for me, fortunately, there was one person who knew Braille and who decided Braille is a script which visually impaired people used to read and write. So she knew Braille and she decided to teach me Braille when I was younger. And I went to school only in grade 2, again, as I said, because we didn't have awareness. And the school was inside the city. And in my school, everyone were blind, but there was some hesitation in terms of, um, catering to needs which come up, especially in math and science, because everybody believed that someone is visually impaired, they shouldn't study math and science. Anyway, nobody is studying, so just skip everything in math and science. So we mostly did only those four basic operations till seventh grade.
Hmm. Hmm.
But eventually, most children drop out even in seventh grade or lesser from math and science, because firstly there is optional subjects like political science and economics, and this is because of various reasons. So what happened was, when I came to eighth grade, it was a regular school because my school had only till seventh grade. And here what I realized was everything was done on blackboard. So I cannot grasp anything when I'm sitting because the teacher is saying multiply this and you get the answer 20, and I really have no idea what and what was multiplied. So
Hmm.
there were no books also available for me. There were books, but especially not in math and science in Braille, because math and science have lot of diagrams.
Okay.
And there were no teachers who are experienced to teach me, because first time they were seeing me and even they have to figure out what to do with me. And also
Hmm.
technologies were there, but they were not affordable. At the same time, even though there were technologies at that time, I was not aware that there are a lot of technologies that visually impaired people could use. So all of these continued till my post graduation also, where I was, taking up computer science. Again, these issues were there, that people told me don't take these subjects because they're going to be really hard. But I like math and science and also technology related subjects,
So
so I took
Vidya,
them up.
you decided not to leave maths and science. Though you
Yes.
had easier options available, you just decided to continue to learn maths and science.
Yes. So all of these challenges, so whatever I mentioned, they even were there till my post graduation, because I took up visual subjects, though there was an option. So these were some of the challenges that I would like to highlight, that were there for me, especially with regard to math and science and technology.
Yeah, so we are talking about challenges from all kinds of, all sides, in terms of whether the teachers are able to help you, whether you have the resources available, the absence of technology, lack of awareness. I think the only thing going was you wanting to learn. Nothing stopping you from learning those maths and science. So on a day-to-day basis, it would have been difficult, extremely difficult, which we are unable to even fathom, I presume. But moving from there to having, part of Vision Empower, what is it that, what is the role Vision Empower do to influence learning, especially to help people who have challenges like what you have explained?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, in a few sentences, I really cannot describe the challenges, because I had like so many sleepless nights for years because of so many things I had to manage myself, getting extra letters from educational ministry, and in the last minute they have some funny rules, like, a person who is younger than me, they should be able to write my exam, and in the exam I figure out they don't know how to read symbols. So all of these challenges were there, and then I realized for me that I had gone through studying math and science as a visually impaired person, and so many people like me also will be going through the same, and they would want to study math and science, because I don't see any disadvantage over here. A child with visual impairment can easily study math and science given the resources, because of my personal experience. So this is when, after I interned at Microsoft Research, I spoke to one of my professor, Professor Amit Prakash from Triple IT Bangalore, and he connected me to Supriya, who was also graduating in that year, and we together started Vision Empire. So first year, what we did was, we wanted to check if all these challenges that I mentioned are still there or not, and we found that exactly there are the same challenges even now. So my schooling, it got completed in 2011, but since then the challenges have been the same. So first year was all research, and here's when we figured out. So what Vision Empire does is, to make it makes science and math and technology education accessible to children who are visually impaired, school children, because we believe that that's where the effort should begin, and that's where the children would be able to learn best. And at Vision Empire, what we do, we don't have one particular solution. So we know that just developing one technology won't solve the whole thing, or just giving a textbook wouldn't solve the whole problem. So we are catering to holistic needs with regard to studying math and science. So firstly, we have the content itself that is made accessible. As I was mentioning, I just had text part of it in braille, so that won't
Mhm.
help. So digestive system just remains a definition for me unless and until I touch the diagram and feel.
Yeah.
So we have tactile diagrams, we have 3D models, we have everything else that is needed to get the same experience and same learning, just like how a person who could see would learn. So
Yeah.
that is one of our initiative. Then secondly, we have our teacher training programs, because most, as I was mentioning, in blind schools, math and science have not been catered to much. And also the teachers themselves, most of them are visually impaired. If they have not studied these subjects, it's difficult for them to teach. So we bridge any conceptual gap that they may have, and also train them on using our resources, because all of these are new for them. And along with Microsoft Research, we are focusing on making computational thinking accessible to children who are visually impaired. Because
Can you give an
computational,
example of that for the
yes,
benefit of the audience?
yeah. So computational thinking is basically, most of us would know that it's just breaking down a complex problem into smaller steps and being able to think about it so that you can program on a computer later. But
Mhm.
digital literacy and numeracy are the foundation. So we are having a list of games where the children use easily available material like braille cards that we have designed, or pebbles. So they play, and as they play, they learn. So this is how all our games in computational thinking are designed, and this is jointly with Microsoft Research. For example, just to give you an idea, so we have a game called IC10, and
Okay.
a child say picks up two cards, 4 and 6, and if you add up 4 and 6, you should say I see 10. So the same thing, you can make as many pairs as possible, 3 and 7, 2 and 8. So whoever is
Mm.
able to make the most number of pairs get to win the game. Like this, we have various games, and children wouldn't know that they are playing, but they still learn a lot of concepts through these. And since we are incubated at Triple IT Bangalore, we have a list of technologies also in our portfolio, like refreshable braille book reader, and which is called Hexis, and accessible learning management system and everything. So because technology is so important, I'm even able to join Zoom because of the technology, the screen reader that I have on my machine. So we believe that technology is a huge enabler. So we have a list of technologies as well.
So I have a doubt here. So one is in terms of enabling the students or the children who want to learn, and you touched upon the teacher training part of it. How about the third aspect of awareness, and the fourth aspect of affordability? Are there also steps being taken around these two as well, so that more and
So,
more students are aware that such opportunities do exist and it is reachable to them?
in terms of awareness, we don't have to do much for the students, because fortunately for us, most of the children go to blind schools, and we get all of them in a residential facility. And once the child is enrolled into a school, their parents mostly leave it to the schools to
School.
take care of their needs. So we
Okay.
find all the visually impaired children in one place, except say about 500 in the whole country. The
Hmm.
rest all are enrolled in special schools, so we don't have to go from home to home and create these awareness. But from personally, for me, what I make sure is I come and talk in conferences like these. I give motivational talks to schools and colleges, and in whatever way for me it is possible, I create awareness. And at the same time, we also, as Vision Empower, as an organization, we also participate in various forums where inclusion is a theme, and that's how we create awareness for college and corporates and everything. And affordability, as you mentioned, that is always it's always the priority, because our users cannot afford what we make. So we make sure that our technologies are fully affordable, and we try to get funding from CSR organizations or sponsors, and mostly all our services are free to the end users.
That's wonderful to hear that, Vidya. Uh, while you were saying, I was also like Vision Empower, you said one of the initial steps was to do research. And over the years, um, what has been your view compared to when you grew up as a young student versus now? How do you think the impact of technology or even otherwise it has been on the learning experiences for visually challenged learners? Do you think there has been a change, very minimal change? What is your view on that?
I really feel the changes are huge.
Mhm.
I'm not going to focus only on technology, but also social changes, because all of these play a part in getting a holistic learning experience. And I really feel some of the areas in which I can see a lot of changes are firstly parental involvement.
Mhm.
When I was studying, there were a lot of residential students in the schools, and parents wouldn't take them home even once in 3 or 4 months. But now most of the children are going home and are involved with their parents. And because there's so much improvement in the medical care, number of blind children have gone down, because we were
Mhm.
looking for children in the early school, early childhood group, and all the government departments and hospitals, they told us that the prevention is so much better now, that there are really few visually impaired children. Maybe in the old age many are losing their eyesight, but in children, in childhood, the number of visually impaired children are reduced now.
Okay.
And also, before, parents were mostly concerned about, how, if there is a child with visual impairments, obviously there'll be so many things to take care. So the first priority would be, how do I get textbooks for my child, how do I send them to school? But now that many organizations are working in this space, parents are also looking at holistic development. They are looking
Mhm.
at what they can do better, just like any other child who can see at their home. We are working with some of the schools, and in Kerala especially, many children love cycling. They're trying art, they're trying many new things along with education. That is also thanks to a lot of people who are working in this area, where the basics are taken care of and children are actually treated as children now. uh,
That's so nice to hear. That should have been the normal, but yeah.
yeah. And also, I see that parents are more involved even with children who have additional disabilities, because it's not uncommon for us to find at least 2 children among 10 children who have extra additional disabilities. Maybe they are slightly hearing impaired, or they have intellectual disabilities. Now many parents are also seeing how best they can provide for them, and that is a
Mm-hmm.
huge change that has gone.
Yeah,
And
that is a
also,
huge
i
shift. Yeah,
I really can't emphasize this much, technology has changed in a very, very, very big way. Because
true.
when I was studying, if I want to get any material read out, so someone had to read it out for me. Now I can just scan and use OCR facility, convert it and read. And even children as young as 6 years, they know how to use Alexa. They're able to get on to call. And
Correct.
I couldn't believe that even when I was doing this digital literacy program, our teachers in the remotest part of the country also had basic phone. They were able to have some basic internet facility and join our Google Meet calls, which was an eye opener for me.
And audio as a
And
technology area itself has also developed in parallel, right?
yes,
Which
yes,
helps.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
especially Kindle and everything. And the technology that is there for reading audio, all of it has developed. And also, one more huge change is in terms of the role models.
Hmm.
Now I see that, since few people have done well in their area, few people with visual impairments, there's no more trouble for parents on if they have a visually impaired child, they're not completely lost. We see that most of the parents know at least one person who has done well in any area, and I think
Mm.
the number of role models have increased, and that is really huge.
Such a wonderful point that you have shared. Now, we walked from your challenges to the past and the changes that have happened. Now, if we align with the topic of this conference in terms of the future of learning, how do you see the power of learning design uh, in the future? How do you think that is going to play out? What are your views on that?
So, if I want to talk about what changes I would like to see to make learning much enjoyable and accessible for children with all types of abilities, then I feel that, firstly, a lot of people are working in silos, and
Mm.
I think there should be a lot of collaborative effort that needs to come in, because if someone is developing something and others are not sure and develop the same thing, there's a lot of resource and energy, time, all that is being wasted. So we need a lot of people to come together, have conferences like these, discuss, take ideas, then work together and come up with solutions, because then a lot of people will be able to benefit from whatever is being done. Um,
Yeah.
and I somehow feel that we have also sometimes, copied the Western model of accessibility, which slightly has to be changed. Because if you talk about accessibility in the US or somewhere in that part of the world, so the concept of independence is entirely different over there. Because um, in India, many people, they go out for lunch together, they depend on each other. So independence here is not the kind of concept that we have borrowed, that if someone is visually impaired or hearing impaired, they should be able to do each and everything by themselves, because that won't hold uh, true in the Indian context. So I feel that some of it has to be changed depending on our context.
Yeah. We
And
have to adapt
also,
it to our context.
yes, definitely. And also I feel that we talk about making each and everything accessible, which is not needed sometimes. We should see what is appropriate and make those accessible. Because I'll give you a simple example. We were trying to make something in place, there was a concept, place value. We were trying to
Mhm.
make it accessible. So in the book now, if you have number 12, 1 and 2, so
Mm.
they had drawn two boxes, and in the units place where there should be two, so there were two bananas, and say in tens place there's one, so there was one apple. And
Mm.
when we tried to implement that, the children with visual impairment were finding it really difficult. Imagine they were if it is 78 or something, then they have to touch 8 fruits
Yeah.
and count how many it is. So we then figured out that instead of putting everything as it is, we need to customize it, because here the concept is not important. Concept is important and not the shape. So you could
Correct.
rather have two dots and one dot to easily
Yeah.
be able to touch and count. So when we say make things accessible, it doesn't mean that each and everything that is available should be put as it is. Sometimes we need to see if it's appropriate or not, and we need to make it accessible, because a lot of people do think accessibility means it should be exactly copied and made accessible.
Yeah. Such a valid point, and I'm sure uh, your input and people doing this with intention will help. So, to the audience, please reach out and share your questions, which you can I can share on your behalf with Vidya. So questions have started coming in, and meanwhile, Vidya, we touched upon technology, we touched upon collaboration and so many other aspects. I'm very curious to know, what do you think is the most important thing to influence learning for accessibility? If I'm asking you for one word, what is the most important thing?
I really feel it's the mindset and attitude because, a lot of people, when they meet me or any other person with visual impairment or any other person with a disability, there's so much assumption that is already inbuilt. People do think this is what they can do, this is what you cannot do. So I feel that, mindset and attitude, and also a lot of unlearning is something that is needed, because what you assume is not the not exactly what it is. So it's always better to be a learner and reduce assumption as much as possible. And I feel mindset and attitude is fixed, then rest of it becomes really easy.
Wonderful. So there is one question. Yes, mindset change. A lot of people, sharing support about that particular point that you mentioned. And there have questions have started coming in, and I would want to hand over to Satya with this one question, which I'm also curious about, which is, Vidya, what is your favorite pastime?
uh it's not a pastime for me, but I love to meditate, so I meditate a lot. I am following a spiritual path, so I love to meditate, and that's something I do it lots. Apart from that, I love singing and making new friends and building my network.
Oh,
I can
wonderful.
just meet anyone and just have a chat. I just love it.
So you are going to hear from me more often. Forcefully, I'm becoming your friend now. Over to you, Satya. Thanks so much for this wonderful chat. And I think Satya would help us with more questions which have started coming in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vidya, and thank you, Krishna. And yes, in speaking of making new friends, I think there are a lot of people are very interested to be your friend, Vidya, from the chats that are just started coming in. I just want to read out some of the comments to you. People have said that Vidya has had my attention, which in this world of, shifting small attention spans is saying something. Vidya has had my attention literally since she had started speaking. She's an amazing speaker. And I think your spiritual journey is beginning to show in the way you're presenting yourself as well, because people are also saying that you have a very soothing, kind of comforting presence to be around, which is great. Here's a question that I'd like to pass on to you, Vidya. This is from Fatima, and she asks, in the race to catch up with the world in different fields, how do we ensure that we take all the sections of the society with us and leave no one behind?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. And for that, what I feel is, again, mostly when we talk about, mm, we everybody has to do something, like, everyone has to take up medicine, or everybody has to take up engineering. I'm sure 75% of the people might not like what they're doing. So here I feel, when you have to take people with different types of abilities also along, then we need to identify what each of them are good and encourage them to go in that area, then asking them also to, okay, involve with everybody else and take up what everyone is doing. So for example, you cannot take a blind person and say, okay, become an artist. I know it's possible, some of them have done it, but not everyone will be interested in something like that, because you haven't seen a lot of art. So I feel what you are good at, it's better to do that, and then it wouldn't be a rat race anymore. It would be enjoyable for everyone. And I feel once that is done, it's so complementary that so suppose when I am at Vision Empire, I'm working, so I will be, say I cannot make a PPT quickly, so I ask somebody else to insert the images and make PPT for me. But I will then suggest them on the strategy on how to make it, what to be included. So it's a teamwork, and it's
Mm.
mutually beneficial. So I feel that as a team, encouraging everybody's ability and promoting their uniqueness will help us build a better team.
Absolutely. I completely can relate to that as well. if you try and write with your left hand when you're actually a right-hand writer, it's going to, you might be able to pull it off, but you're never going to write as beautifully as you can with your right hand. So focus on your strengths, try and find out what they are. And I'm sure in a team, especially if you can tap onto the people's strengths instead of improving our weaknesses, perhaps, this might be a great way for everybody to move forward with the strengths they have. Thank you so much, Vidya. You are going to be inundated with friendship requests after this. I'm seeing so many people. I'm seeing so many people who have written here that, they'd love to be your friend and they are going to find you. So just a little warning from my side.